Google and Reddit are doing a little bit of scheming. CrowdStrike thinks that making millions of people suffer is worth $10 on Uber Eats, and doesn't matter how hard Intel tries, looks like AMD staying on top. Let's get into the hot news, everybody. I'm your Brett host. We're going to be going over the hottest tech news I can find on the internet while you enjoy your breakfast this Thursday, July 25th, 2024. We're going to start off today talking about a 404 media report that came out showing that Reddit no longer allows for any other search engine besides Google to scrape its data. If you try to go over to your Bings and your DuckDuckGos or your Mojeeks or your Quants, which apparently are alternative search engines, you will not be able to find modern Reddit results. You can find them from last week and previous to that, but right now it looks like Reddit has turned off data scraping to anything besides Google. This is actually something that they announced that they were going to do back in June, but they kind of framed it in the idea that it was going to be data scraping for AI, and it turns out that it's data scraping for literally everyone. And the fact that it's Google seems to be connected to the fact that they are getting paid $60 million a year for Google to use Reddit for its AI training data. It appears to be some sort of preferential treatment that's happening there, even though Reddit's robot.txt file says Reddit believes in an open internet, but not the misuse of public content. And so it looks like Reddit thinks anybody who is not paying them is misusing that public content, and it's going to be only Google for now. Potentially, this is going to get adjusted in the future. Maybe it was just supposed to be for AI data training sets and not for indexing for search engines, but it does appear ever since Reddit went public earlier this year, they've had to make moves in order to be profitable, and making it so that you're getting paid for whatever you're putting on the internet might be the way to do it. So now if you want to search Reddit, you just gotta do it through Google, which is the thing that made it usable in the first place, because Google's gotten a little wonky as of late. And then you could also just go to Reddit and search on Reddit itself in case you want to do that, I guess. But Google's not done changing things up when it comes to the Play Store. They're also adjusting that. They want that to be a place where you go and stay, just like you would on Reddit. They don't want it to be a place where you grab and go and get your various little apps. No, they want it to be a curated space where you stick and you just hang out there. And they're going to do that through AI. Of course, AI-powered reviews coming to the Google Play Store, allowing you to see things that are happening, as well as communities and shared experiences that allow you to have a shared space to explore all the cricket content from across various channels in one convenient spot with 100 curated cricket-related apps. That's just an example that was used as part of what Google's rolling out, despite the fact that the Cricket World Cup just recently ended and the Proteas came in second, which is a little bit of a bummer, but I don't want to get into that. I don't want to talk about how I'm still salty about that, but go hang out on Google Play Store. It's where the cool kids are. But the cool kids who are not UFD Tech also apparently are not getting review samples of the upcoming Ryzen 9000 CPUs that are supposed to be launching next week. This is being confirmed by Video Cards, saying that they've talked to various tech influencers and creators and reviewers, and that despite the fact that these CPUs are supposed to come out, AMD has not sent them out to them, despite the fact that they're actually hitting retail shelves. We covered this in yesterday's episode of Hot News, that there was a consumer in Italy who actually was able to make an entire review video on the 9900X because he got it at retail. So it's actually kind of curious, because all of the preliminary numbers and leaked benchmarks that we're seeing on the Ryzen 9000 series appear to be quite good. The 9700, 99, and 9950X all appear to be healthily competitive in the current market, but AMD doesn't appear to be giving them to reviewers. I also found a blog post from Semi-Accurate discussing AMD's tech day that they had last week to discuss all of this, and saying that it was actually more of a PR AI spin than anything, less having to do with the actual technology that's in the chips and more to do with just shoving AI down everybody's throats and making it so that the tech journalists who are there to actually investigate the microarchitecture and understand how everything's going, they were left a little lacking in terms of the meetings that AMD provided. So it appears like there's just some weird situation going on. I will say that I do have a review sample of one of AMD's new chips, but it's their mobile laptop one. I've got a laptop here in the office, and we should be able to get a review out for mid next week when those chips are supposed to launch. But it's curious why reviewers are not getting their hands on them, which probably makes yesterday's story about the Italian YouTuber a little bit more salty. If they're supposed to have these CPUs, well, if the embargo is up on the 30th because they go on sale on the 31st and they don't get them until tomorrow or Friday. If you want to hit embargo, if you want to have it out when everybody else does, if you're trying to actually make sure that you're relevant with everybody else, that's a long weekend. That really sucks. You know what doesn't suck? Reece. Because he's a human, not a vacuum.
Yo, welcome back to UFD Deals, bringing the hottest tech deals out on the internet. And hey, wouldn't you know it, I've got some deals for you today. Starting off with this Jackson 30-foot HDMI cable for only $5.95, making it $5.30 off. I know it's a bit of a weird one, it's got 30 feet, but hey, if you need a long cable, here you go. But then next up, we have this Reece 15.6-inch 1080p 60Hz portable monitor for only $54.99. Let's be real, we know it's not $135 off actually, but $55 is still a phenomenal deal for a portable monitor. And then next up, we have this KTC 24-inch 1080p 100Hz VA monitor going for only $79.99 with included promo code, making it $20 off. And hey, with that, the deals are done. You can find these and more linked in the video description down below. But until next time, I'm gonna hand you off back to Brett for the rest. Your hot news. Cheers.
Well, Reece, I got a fantastic deal for you, okay? How about this? We take down 8.5 million computers that are related to critical infrastructure across the world, and then we just offer everybody a $10 Uber Eats gift card. Sounds reasonable? I think so. CrowdStrike coming out with some details about what led to the 8.5 million computers going down. There was just testing bugs in the security update, and now, even though they're a publicly traded company, even though they are worth billions of dollars, they're now going to start rolling out canary updates so that they can test these updates as they go out to make sure that everything's okay. First time. They learned, but they're also going to have to learn a lesson in PR because it appears that they sent out a $10 Uber Eats apology gift card to many of their customers, and then promptly it didn't work. People who tried to redeem it couldn't actually access the $10 gift card, and their mea culpa of saying, hey, there was a bug in the update. We know that it caused millions of people to be stranded across the world due to flights and various other parts of infrastructure being down, but the $10 gift card rescinded already. It was there. Even if it stayed, it just comes across as a horrible attempt at trying to make good on something that you're not actually giving the money to the people who likely were the most affected, those people who were stranded at airports all across the world. That's probably in a situation where they could use a $10 Uber Eats gift card because they could go, get some food because they're not at home anymore. But sending it to the companies who's probably paying CrowdStrike a lot of money to keep things up. But let's reel it back into the detailed tech stuff that's going on with Zen 5 and the upcoming Ryzen 9000 series launch. Even though the tech day that some people are saying wasn't very robust last week, there are blog posts coming out, there are slides that AMD published yesterday with regards to everything that you can see when it comes to Zen 5, Zen 5C, how they structure the cores, as well as the Radeon 890M. We'll leave links in the video description for you to check it out. They also updated the HX 375 to have a faster NPU unit coming in at 55 tops, which beats the 50 tops of the 370 and the 365, which you definitely want to have 55 tops. They talk about how the CCD is built on N4P. You've got the core complex speeds and feeds when it comes to everything going on with Zen 5, as well as details of the 890M RDNA 3.5 GPU that's going to be going into the laptops. You can see the difference in the engines, the texture subsystems, the shader subsystems, as well as the various different FPU data paths that all of these take, and how they use dual CCX CPUs. Again, a lot of technical detail. If this is the type of stuff that you're interested in, we'll have sources for it down below for you to check out. And we'll have to see if Intel's details on them fixing the voltage for their 13th and 14th gen CPUs actually checks out, because there's leaked reports coming out that Intel isn't even sure if this is actually gonna fix everything. I didn't put this as a headline because this is a rumor from a singular source, but Igor's lab does tend to have some insider information when it comes to these various companies, and his reporting indicates that while Intel has confirmed elevated voltage impact the increase in VMIN, investigation continues in order to fully understand root cause and address other potential aspects of this issue. So this bill that we're being sold, that potentially it's this algorithm in the microcontroller microcode that's causing voltage spikes when they're not supposed to be happening, even when the CPU is at a low power state. It's not supposed to be working that way. This could just be one of many more problems that could potentially be discovered down the line, and you still have to wait for the microcode patch to get released in August and then be validated and then roll out to your CPU and your PC, and it just creates this air of uncertainty and lack of trust where you hear this of like, hey, there could be more coming down the line, and we've been here before. Back in May, they said that they were going to have a patch that was supposed to roll out at the end of May so that companies could start rolling that out in BIOS updates, and that did happen. There was a change when it came to the thermal velocity boost setup, but that wasn't it. That wasn't all of it. There was still more to be done, and it looks like we might still be in that situation despite the fact that Intel made it seem like this might be a root cause. We'll have to continue to wait for clarity on that. But we're also getting more clarity on what's going on with Arrow Lake. This is probably the CPU architecture Intel just wants to get on over to, and hopefully that they don't have any of these bugs and hiccups in this next generation. And new benchmarks are showing, depending on which headline you're reading, it's 4% faster than 14900K, or 18%, it's faster, 18, double digits faster than the 14900K. That's because it was tested in a wide variety of different benchmarks for the CPU testing, and on average, it was 4% faster. It lost in a couple of benchmarks like Speedometer and Chrome and WebEx PRT, but then in things like Geekbench or Cinebench, the Arrow Lake CPU was significantly faster, coming in at 17.55% faster on the Cinebench score. So while these numbers are looking impressive, it looks like Arrow Lake will be a step up from the 14900K at a lower power profile and a lower clock speed. Maybe some of that lower clock speed is introducing some slowness in various different benchmarks, but when you compare it to the 9950X, at least the preliminary numbers that we've had from people testing the 9950X, at 230 watts, the 9950X is already beating Arrow Lake at 250 watts, and the 160 watt version of the 9950X is like roughly equivalent to the Arrow Lake CPU. So it looks like whatever flagship 24 core, 24 thread CPU Intel's expected to be coming out with their new architecture, 9950X is putting up big numbers, especially when it comes to just the multi-core and compute side of things. Maybe it'll be a different situation when it comes to single core performance and when it comes to gaming, but again, we're also still waiting on the 9000X 3D chips, which might take it another level beyond. I'm just really reflecting on how we got here, why we're in this situation that we're in, of Intel really losing the communication, the customer support, the mind share when it comes to CPU, because it's one thing for AMD to have a competitive product and to beat Intel in certain regards. It's another thing for Intel to undermine their trust with game companies, with gamers, having this instability, not fixing it in an appropriate manner, not communicating specifically when the patches are going to roll out to the end consumer, when they're going to be able to expect an RMA if their chip died. Anything like that has been missing, and it's just a slippage that wasn't this way back when I started the channel. I built the 6700K system because that was the chip to have, then the 7700K, and then the 8700K, while Ryzen was still nascent and developing. I kind of had both going side by side, 1700X next to my 7700K system, then I got a 2700X, then I got a Threadripper 1950X, then I was on the 9900K, then the 10850K. I had a 10980XE system, but now we're getting to the place where like it's just upgrade to AMD. Get 9950X, 16 core, not gonna have the stability issues, and Arrow Lake's not even gotten a tentative release date at this point, allegedly Q3, Q4, maybe this year. We'll see if that slips. Not a great position for Team Blue when it comes to the CPU side. I'm holding thumbs for Battlemage, though, I'll tell you that much. And you guys told me a whole lot when it came to the comments of yesterday's episode of Hot News, so let's see what we have. We got Cam saying, just a reminder, while Brett is being so harsh to Intel, Brett was incredibly harsh towards AMD when they released the 7900 XTX with faulty coolers that caused horrible performance. AMD failed then to clarify to customers they'd make it right, and Intel is now doing the same thing with their i9 processors. Am I being harsh? Or am I just being like a vocal voice? Who else is gonna talk publicly to Intel? And I know I have Intel employees who watch these videos. Like, I don't feel like I'm being harsh. I feel like I'm being objective here. I don't expect Intel to do more than they possibly can. I don't expect Intel to be able to diagnose a problem before they put the engineering man hours in to figure it out. Like, I think that would be harsh of like, what, you guys are idiots? You haven't even figured it out yet? Dumbasses. Like, that would be harsh. I feel like the way I'm at is like, you're uncertain, totally fine. You can be there, but you can't leave your customers in the dark while you figure out the problem. You have to communicate to the customer your uncertainty, but also your certainty of commitment to them. It kind of has to be both. I feel like that's more of a holding them to account rather than being harsh. I don't know. We'll forget about it in like 10 years when I'm still doing hot news, and we'll bring it up and be like, oh yeah, I did kind of get salty about that, huh? Then we got Toxic Wood too, saying my wallet wouldn't let me buy it even if I wanted to. This is in regards to all of the Titan cards that we discussed yesterday. A lot of people called me out because I forgot that there was a card called the Titan RTX. Sure did. Forgot about it. Look at that. I could get it right now for $1,250 at 24 gigabytes of GDDR6 VRAM. Wow, it's like a 2080 Ti, just slightly more VRAM. I forgot this thing existed. Totally not important in terms of NVIDIA's overall product stack, and probably one of the reasons why they chose to discontinue it in further years. But thank you for calling me out on that. I'll try to keep it in my memory banks. I might lose it though. And then Bartesh saying, waiting till Zen 5 X3D chips to grab that 9950 X3D. As far as I'm aware, they're not changing how they have the chiplet structure with 3D V-Cache only being on half of the cores. And so I don't know that the 9950 X3D is going to be that much better than a 9800 X3D, but here's to hoping. We'll see. And then we got James saying, I do feel Intel should have been on top of things when people started reporting the problem. It's a tricky thing, and this is where, like, I would say I'm trying to not be harsh, because I understand the complexities of there's a bunch of systems out there, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of different computers running these CPUs in various different configurations. Just because you hear a few reports of instability, that doesn't mean that it's industry-wide and affecting everything. But when you now have investigative journalism being done by Level 1 Techs and Wendell, and then him finding out and telling game developers, hey, look at your crash logs, this is actually connected. It takes like that catalyst moment of connecting the dots because it looks unrelated. Once that happened, it's been about like a week and a half since that Level 1 Techs video has come out, and Intel has already responded when it comes to at least acknowledging that there's a new microcode update that's coming out, even if they haven't fully committed as far as I want them to in terms of making sure that customers know they have their backs with defective CPUs. It's so complicated that it's hard to say that Intel should know what's going on, because based on everything I've been reading by every expert who's been opining about this, it's not simple. We are literally dealing with intense electrical and computer engineering to the levels that most people don't understand, and it's things that take a lot of time to diagnose and to make sure that get corrected moving forward. And so I think Intel's tried to be on top of it, but they also have this weird like corporate speak that goes on with some of their statements that just make it a little problematic for me. And then we got Love Life saying 7800 X3D gonna be 1080 Ti of NVIDIA. The 1080 Ti of NVIDIA is the 1080 Ti. I knew what you're trying to say, though. I just want to call it out for that reason. I just thought it was funny. Feel free to make mistakes in your comments. It's totally fine. I make mistakes when I talk on hot news all the time. It's 160 on goodbye.